and it's really hard. It's really hard, but you have to just keep trying. You have to throw out as many lines as you can, and eventually someone will take one.
Today, we're interviewing Czech-American composer Beth Ratay, who is a professor of theory and music composition at the University of New Mexico. Dr. Ratay recently won an Opera America Discovery Grant and is an American Prize finalist. She is a flautist and a singer in addition to her teaching and composition work. I met her through her work as the president of the Boston New Music Initiative, and I'm excited to talk to her about teaching opera, figuring out how to make a career work with multiple different facets, and her optimism about the future of art music in the United States. Hey, Beth. Do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions?
I'd love to. Hi, Brian.
I'm excited to talk to a composer who is doing such a huge variety of things. You just told me about all of the different work you were doing. We're going to have a link to your bio in the YouTube description. But kind of the first question that I have for you is really drilling down on sort of the mechanics, maybe a little logistics, maybe a little bit of mindset. But I want to know, how do you maximize the benefits of being a composer, teacher, performer, administrator, all at the same time?
The first thing that I'll say for sure is that you just never know where opportunities are going to come from. And the more things that you do and the more people that you meet, then the more opportunities that come up. I took this job teaching for Santa Fe Opera, and I mean, the job in and of itself is amazing, but I also met some really amazing performers that are now championing my work and commissioning stuff from me. So if I hadn't said, okay, I'll go teach elementary school kids how to write opera, I would not now have, I wouldn't have met the person that commissioned my opera for the Young Voices of Santa Fe Opera that's premiering in April, right? So the more opportunities that you take advantage of, the more opportunities will open up, I think.
Do you find that your work boosts the other aspects of it?
As a teacher, I have been teaching both theory and composition, and specifically like oral labs, and then beginning composition with young composers. And I do the same thing where, I feel like a lot of the stuff that I preach to them, when I come back around and I'm looking at my own music, I'm like, oh, yep, remember, you got to keep it simple. Remember, you got to do this. I mean, every aspect of the music, of the work that I do, carries over and bleeds into each other. One of the things that I discovered more recently about myself is that I learned my composing superpower that I'm really good at taking a lot of different ideas in from lots of different people and then putting it into a product. And that actually has, it can happen in lots of different ways. So I do that with kids. I do that with my teaching. I do that with my own composition. Very recently just discovered that. And I kind of now have a better appreciation for myself and what is the right kind of work for me to be doing.
How do you teach a kindergartner to write opera?
I don't do, we do collaborative composition, which is with a large group. So we don't do it. It's not like one kindergarten. It's usually a large group of students who are somewhere between 5 to 12 in age. And it's usually around anywhere between 5 to 20 kids. And we actually do a bunch of different things. Sometimes, but one of the things that I learned from a colleague of mine was Amy Owens, who teaches the Young Voices of Santa Fe Opera. She invented/refined this process called collaborative composition, and it's done completely through vocal improv, which is accessible right to everybody because we all have voices. Yeah. And you usually you create some sort of track or something that goes underneath, and then you encourage them to just use their voices over it. Yeah. So we have gotten kids all the way from little 5-year-olds to, it works for adults. I use it in my college composition classes. It also really spoke to me as a composer, specifically of vocal music, because that's a lot of the way that I just write is I just start singing the words that are given to me. So it really clicked.
I feel like improvising so greases the wheels on creativity. And it's just that, I don't know if it's the pressure of time or if it's that it's got to come out somehow. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like when you say that vocal improvisation, I'm like, of course, that's got to be so effective.
Yeah. And actually, that's a thing that I repeat to my students all the time. Composition is actually subtraction. Like part one is getting as much material as you possibly can, and then part two is whittling it down to the good stuff.
I read recently that one of the hardest challenges for any artist, but especially a young composer, is dealing with the feelings of being unheard for an extreme amount of time. Do you feel heard? And what do you do? How do you improve your health as a creative when you don't feel heard?
That's a super really good question. And like for me, I feel like I've only just reached established composers status. So I still actually have a lot of feelings of being unheard, still fighting. You know, I feel like I still have to fight every time, like to get people to perform my music, things like that. And I do think that it is part of the problem. And actually, the person that you're talking about, that's like composers that can sit the longest with being the unheard are most successful. But one of the other things that it's kind of a corollary to that, or a caveat, is some of the most successful composers were ones that were able to be heard younger, like had opportunities and were able to be heard earlier. And maybe it made, I think it was twofold. One, they felt recognized, but then also had the opportunity to improve, because that's one of the biggest things is you can't improve until you hear your music, and then it's a cycle. And if you're not getting that, if you're not initiating that cycle, you're missing that really important step in the cycle, then you're not improving as a composer. I would say for the most part, I do feel heard. And as I said, it's relatively new. Like I had a very long period of, well, yeah, I'll just be completely honest. I moved with my partner several times, and I had kids, and I had young kids. And during that time, I didn't compose as much. And so I had fewer opportunities and fewer times and spaces to be heard. Like, as I said, until like just the last year or so, I really felt like I hadn't made a lot of progress. I wasn't getting a lot of recognition, things like that. And so I guess a couple of things helped me get through that. One is, it sounds, well, I was so busy because I had two kids and was like doing all this stuff that I could kind of just make it through the day. But I also kind of constantly had sort of this self-doubt or self-flagellation, almost of like, you're not doing enough as a composer, that can really bog you down sometimes. And I think there's sort of two things that really helped move me out of it. One is I was, in fact, like as I kept chugging and trying to get opportunities, I finally did get an opportunity and a new commission on a work that it's my work, The Two Worlds, which is a song cycle about my grandfather's immigration from the Czech Republic to the US. It was super important to me. And then I got a sponsor to basically say, well, I'm going to pay you to do this. And like, I think those two things coming together, like this is this thing that I really wanted to do. This is a story that I really want to tell. And I have people supporting, really helped move me out of that. And I actually kind of see that a little bit as a turning point for me, and feeling like, oh, okay, this is where I found my niche. I found the thing that I want to be doing and what I want to be telling, the stories I want to be telling. And I'm, moving on, like finally also being recognized. And I think that really helped.
What would you go and say to the past version that kind of needed you?
I would say, and it's really hard. It's really hard, but you have to just keep trying. You have to throw out as many lines as you can, and eventually someone will take one.
Is there something that gives you hope or makes you feel optimistic about emerging art music in the United States?
One of the cool things about today and in America is that there's access to all kinds of musical creation programs without any trappings with it. There's a lot of tools out there that can help artists get around what was previously sort of gatekeeping of privilege, of like, if you had the means, you could get the training to learn to do this. It's opening that gate a little bit. I wouldn't say it's completely open. The floodgate's not completely open, but it really has changed not only who makes music, but also how people make music. And academia, I would say in a lot of places in some places is starting to catch up, in some places is not there yet to be on board with sort of this new way that people approach music and that they make music. That actually gives me a lot of hope, because it's opening it up to not the same old people and not the same types of voices specifically. We want lots of different kinds of voices.
If I had asked the same question but changed the word optimistic to pessimistic, I think that there are people who could have given the exact same answer that you just gave, and would say that the access to the ease of making music and putting it out is detrimental and causes all these troubles. I'm not sure what I think about that, but what would you say to those people who are perhaps worried that there's no way that someone serious about their craft could possibly succeed because of all of just the amount of music that's coming out?
It's a really good point, because one of the things about it is that given the ease and access now, there is a flood of more content. But I also think that you have to ask yourself, what do we mean by succeed? And that's like really important. What are these emerging composers trying to do? Are they trying to be the next Jennifer Higdon, or are they trying to write something that feels authentic to them and share it with anybody else that likes it? What is the definition of success? Because I also think that idea is changing as well. There's sort of two facets to this. One is thinking about the future for students, and one is like my own history. So like thinking about what my definition of success was, right, has changed over the years. And I've come to a point, through therapy and all of these things, to say that this is who I am. And like, if it doesn't match with what someone wants, that's okay. But then the flip side is like, what I would say, like talking with my students and what I've learned with my students, like what their goals are in my teaching. Like, I'm number one of like, what is your goal? What is it you want to get out of this? Where do you want to go? And it might be where I am, it might be UNM, but most of my students that are like the undergraduate dabbling in composition, trying to decide what they're doing, aren't wanting to become like Western classical music living composers. Some of them want to become like performer composers, kind of like you, Brian. Yeah, like some of them want to just like write music for film. Actually, a lot of them really want to write music for film. And like, academia still doesn't exactly consider that, high art. It really depends on what it is that the student is looking for and what their definition of success is. If you're thinking of it in terms of like, oh yeah, this is a person, like the success is I'm going to be a composer and I'm going to get my PhD and I'm going to write masterpieces that win the Grawemeyer Award, then yeah, that's probably not the thing that most composers are going to be doing.
Is it your idea that more artists making more art is just a better expression of humanity?
Yes. I think more humans making art is good. And actually, one of the things that I've come to just through my work, again, through education and outreach that I do and composing with young kids, I now have a very strong sense that like everybody's a composer. So one of the things that I noticed also in my own kids and their upbringing, but just with my work, is that we don't encourage creativity in young people musically. We encourage it. You can imagine like we encourage body movements. Oh yeah, move to the music, feel, whatever. We encourage drawing. Like we hand kids pieces of paper and encourage them to draw. So we encourage art. We encourage that. We encourage them to tell stories. But like, how many examples in like really young kids do you have of people encouraging them to create music spontaneously?
It's not a lot.
Yeah, it's not a lot, especially when compared to the other arts. And so I actually kind of, one of the things that motivates me is this idea that I think that everybody is musically creative, just like everybody's an artist. We can go into a whole thing of like whether or not it's good. That's a separate thing. That's a separate thing in its own whole bag of worms. But everybody can create music, in my opinion.
Skipping the conversation about if it's good or not, I think I'm on team Beth here. Like I think more people making art sounds like a great thing. And if for no other reason than the selfish reason of artists are more likely to appreciate art and then buy tickets to said art. Well, that seems pretty straightforward to me. What would you say to the maybe 20-year-old trumpet student or violin student who's churning out their excerpts all day? And how you see them? How would you convince them to compose, and how would you suggest they start?
Well, one of the things that I share is that I grew up kind of with like my flute playing. I was a flutist originally. So it was like the things that I did as a flute player or as a singer, I also sang. And then the composition, and they like did not touch. They were two separate things. And it was probably my early 20s that I started having a chance to improvise and to try out some things. And it opened up a new bridge. It made me, because it helped me understand my flute playing and my singing and all of those things better. And it helped me understand my composition better. So, my argument is like messing around on your instrument, basically, it helps you understand your instrument better. It helps you. I also think it can be really crucial for expression, because one of the things that we spend a ton of time trying to teach performers to do is to be expressive. And when you improvise your own music or even just try to be super expressive with something and push boundaries and aren't trying to follow an exact code, you learn about what you like, what works, and you learn about how to play your instrument better and to convey what you want to convey with your instrument better.
Yeah. I mean, I am so on board with that. It's amazing how much better at horn I get when it's either my music or music that I'm really connected to. Beth, I really appreciate you taking the time. I really appreciate your insight, and hopefully our audience will get something out of it.
Thank you so much, Brian. This was great.